prefer to think of it, dear John and Hank. Sorry, I had myself muted.
It's perfect. It's perfect. That's how you know that that's how you know it's real. Hello and welcome to Dear Hank and John. And then you said it's a comedy podcast where it's here. I got it. It's a podcast where two brothers answer your questions, give you dubious advice, and bring you all the week's news from both Mars and AFC Wimbledon. John, my book's coming out.
I
and
know.
A bunch of people have been asking me, Hank, why is this one longer than the first one? And it's a long story.
That was pretty funny, but I might have only laughed at it because I am in an exceptionally good mood.
Well, that's great to hear. That's not usually how we start our podcasts off. And so I know that there's probably something unusual happening either in your life or in the world.
Yeah, so I feel like we do need to just acknowledge the elephant in the room, or I guess more specifically, the elephant in my room, which is that as we are recording this live for VidCon now, Manchester City are playing Chelsea in front of no fans in the Premier League. And if Manchester City don't win, Liverpool Football Club will win their first league title in 30 years. This is a very, 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 very big deal for me. It goes, if you don't mind, a little bit of backstory, Hank.
Oh gosh. Well, okay, we'll do it, and then we'll tell everybody that this episode is weird. But you do that first.
It's not weird. It's a totally normal episode. When I was 12 years old, I was on my middle school soccer team. I wasn't the best player, but I was the worst player. We were not a good team at all. We did not win many games that season, but we did have one very, very good player. His name was James, and he was very, very good because he was from England, which in Orlando, Florida at the time automatically made you the best soccer player in the state.
Yeah.
And it was through James that I learned that football was like a profession for some people, that like it existed as a pro sport. And it was also through James that I learned about Liverpool Football Club. And it just happened to be that season that Liverpool won the title. And I was like, I think I'll hop on this bandwagon.
How's the last couple decades been?
And now 30 years later, it's finally paying off.
So a team that isn't Liverpool has to lose in order for you to get the title, and that's going to happen in the next hour or so.
Or tie. A tie would also be fine.
That's great.
It's been a long, strange journey this season, obviously. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's hard not to think about. Let's answer some questions from our listeners.
Well, we can't. So first of all, I've got one thing I have to say, which is that I wanted to look up the mascot of Liverpool Football Club so that I could say, instead of the elephant in the room, the name of the mascot. But the problem is the mascot of Liverpool Football Club is the liverbird.
Yeah, it's the liverbird.
Well, I'm not going to say the liverbird in the room. I'm just not going to. And second, this is being recorded live during VidCon Now, the distributed VidCon that is occurring all across the world. VidCon Now has a bunch of events that are happening, and this is one of them, but they will continue to go on. So if you want to follow VidCon on Twitter, you can find out about them. They're free. So thanks to everybody who has joined us specifically for our VidCon Now performance of Dear Hank and John. I can hear them wooing at home. I can't actually, but I can imagine them wooing at home. And,
yeah, thank you all for joining us. We are really grateful, and grateful to everybody at VidCon for putting this together.
Yeah, and we have questions direct from our VidCon Now live stream listeners. First of all, we're going to start out with a question from, I think is sorry. Let me open this up.
I can start out with a question. I'm prepared. We don't all have to be prepared. Only one of us has to be prepared. This question comes from Wholesome SWM, who says, any life advice for a recent college graduate? Oh, has there ever been a better time to be a recent college graduate?
Yes. What's your degree in?
The true answer to this is that I don't have any advice, and I have no idea what is happening, and I have no idea how to make things better. And I feel like there aren't enough adults saying that they have no idea. So maybe that can be my role. I have no idea.
everybody's got some real strong advice. Everybody who doesn't have to deal with this particular problem, and which is everyone, because no one's ever dealt with the situation as it stands right now.
No one who's under the age of 104.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine's grandma was born right at the beginning of the Spanish flu, and remembers in her toddlerhood a lot of like fear continuing about that, and having to sort of think about it when she was a little kid.
Yeah.
So hopefully it will be not a thing 6 years from now, but who knows? I will say that it's not.
Hank, you're really harshing on my Liverpool buzz right now, man.
It's maybe not a terrible idea to look at both, of course, options for getting into the workforce, but also options for continuing your education in one way or another, deepening your skill set in your current chosen field, or adding some other something, of course, in a way that probably will not involve as much traditional schooling, but hopefully will be less expensive, just so you can have something to put on your resume during that period of time, so that it sort of looks like you are still developing your skills, even at a time when maybe you are job hunting, but also at a time when a lot of people, it's going to be hard. It's super hard to stay proactive in a really uncertain time, but also in a time that's kind of depressing because you don't have all of the same sources of joy that we maybe usually have. So, and that's not universal, but I think for a lot of people, it is a experience that we're having because we just don't have all of the same things that we loved to enjoy in the same way. So that is one thing that I would look at, both continuing to look into the job market, but also, and maybe that's not a problem for you because there are certainly jobs that are needed now more than ever. But if that is a problem, then looking toward what opportunities there are to continue your education and knowledge building inexpensively.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I also I don't know.
But I also don't know. I will agree that I don't know.
I just feel really bad for people who are trying to navigate that because it's always difficult. Like it's difficult. It's a difficult transition, like the early 20s or whenever you begin your non-formal education part of your life are notoriously often sort of difficult years. I know they were very difficult for me. And, this is just a hugely complexifying factor in that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a easier question, John, and one that may annoy you more, this is from M, who asks, if you put milk in a bowl of croutons, does that make dinner cereal? First of all, cereal can be dinner cereal.
Yeah.
I have dinner cereal all the time.
That's one of my pet peeves. We can't say that some foods are only for one meal. It's the weirdest. It's not the weirdest thing humans do because we do a lot of weird things, but it is among the weirder things that humans do.
It's weird enough that I hope that someone's studying it. That I hope that like we can investigate this aspect of humanity and be like, we have learned a thing about humans, about our like tendency to categorize. But man, eggs for dinner is great.
Well, so-called breakfast for dinner is my favorite dinner. And I also like it so much more than I like so-called breakfast for breakfast. Like in the morning, I don't want to eat like eggs and a muffin and bacon. But in the evening, I very much do.
Yeah.
To the question, however, if you put milk in croutons, what you've done is you've ruined both milk and croutons.
I have an extension of this question because I agree with you. I just don't think it would be very good to have a savory, salty cereal with a bunch of like herbs in it. And also you'd see all the oil coming out of the croutons. John, you once had a summer job where you made croutons, and you were talking to me once about like you making croutons. And I was like, people make those?
Oh, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and make croutons every day. There were two things that I got really good at making. And even now, 20 years later, there's still only two things that I can cook. And I learned how to cook both of them at Outtakes Restaurant in Alabama in 1996. I can make a mean crouton, and I can cut up those like red potatoes that are like smaller than your fist. New potatoes, they were called when I was a child. I can cut up those and bake them, and they they will taste delicious. Anything else is hopeless. I'm only a prep cook. Like I'm not my wife always jokes that while I'm very helpful in the kitchen, I'm not allowed near heat.
Yeah. Well, heat is required to make croutons at least. But
Yeah,
I
I can
think
do
that we
that,
have
but like
to yeah, what we have to remember is that croutons are like really oily. Like you put a lot of oil in them and you don't want to
yeah,
like
I
see
mean,
that coming out into the milk. They're not
no,
just like dry bread.
no, you don't really want to know why croutons are so delicious. Like they're
I
delicious for the same reason every other food that's
Yeah.
delicious is delicious.
Yeah, you go to the restaurant and you're like, "Why is this so much better than what I cook at home?" And it's like, "Well, probably the half a stick of butter."
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I think we've solved that problem
I have
and
an
solved it
extension.
quite.
I have an extension of
Oh,
it
there.
though.
I'm sorry, I failed to foresee the extension.
I'm very curious how much meat needs to be in a cereal before it's grip it and rip it, John. Sorry, that was a McElroy reference.
That was weird. I was just
How
drinking a
much
Diet Dr. Pepper like a normal person. You had to make it weird. How much meat needs to be in a cereal before it's not cereal
before
anymore?
it becomes soup? Yeah.
Oh, I would say any.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
if
the
I just
one,
like put a cold cut in
right? Like
there.
they make all kinds of different cereals. They make like, they made Sour Patch Kids cereal. They
Yeah.
make, you've got every kind of cereal, but one thing you never see is a meat-based cereal.
Yeah,
Nobody ever is
hamburger
like,
cereal, corn
or
dog
like beef
cereal.
jerky, but when you put it in milk, it gets real good. I'm getting nauseated just thinking
Yes.
about it. Actually, I really would like to move on if we can.
Okay, that's good. I think that's probably for the best.
All right, we've got a question from Katri, who writes, "What are some tips y'all have for when you lose motivation to create things? This summer has been hard on me and has got me in a deep creative block." Well, first, this summer is
Hmm.
hopefully anomalous in human history. Like, I think it's been hard for a lot of people to create things this summer.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not sure that my old tips and tricks work in the face of a challenge
Hmm.
this immense and multifaceted.
I
So I
can
just want to say that at the outset.
Yeah, I think that it's important on the question of motivation to go deeper than my own personal experience in terms of like what actually motivates me. One, because like I have a very unique set of motivations after 15 years of creating professionally or semi-professionally. But like the thing that I think is really important is to be mindful of the things that help you make stuff and mindful of the things that that block you from making stuff. And that's going to be different for every person, but as long as like in when you're in a moment and you're feeling inspired, look at where that inspiration came from so that you can try and track it down again. And that might be your own
Mm,
personal development. It might be something that you saw on the internet. It might be a tool that you're getting excited about using that you need or want to learn how to use. There are all kinds of things like that for me where if I don't take the time or just a little bit of my mental energy in the moment of that excited creation to look at why I'm enjoying this, then it's harder for me to track it down again.
So I think that's really interesting. It's different from my experience of making things. For me, the inspiration almost always comes after the
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 process
disciplined
begins. Yeah.
the disciplined sitting down and opening
Hmm.
up the document and forcing myself to do that every day and stating a time for when I'm going to do it and keeping to that time.
Hmm.
It's really easy for me to do all manner of internety things until I open up the document, or like all manner of distractions until I open up the document. And then for me, once the document is open, even if it's blank, I'm like, okay, I, I should work. And I almost never experience that joy of making something, that feeling of things clicking together, the joy of telling a story, until I've been like, I have to get past this place of boredom or frustration or blockedness in order to feel that feeling. But
Hmm.
now, because I've felt that feeling so many times over the last 20 years, I kind of know that. But I
You know
remember
it's
when I was
there.
starting
Yeah.
out, I would often quit after like 30 minutes of staring at a blank page or whatever, and just be like, well, I suck, and get really mad at myself. And now, I mean, I still have some pretty devastatingly negative self-talk at times, but now I know that on the other side of that does potentially at least lie some fun, because making stuff, like being creative, is fun. It's just that the work and the fun are all tied up in each other, for me at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear that. And I mean, I think that that's a kind of mindfulness about where your creative process finds fuel. And I have also found that, especially in, I mean, I guess in everything, but writing is, I guess, the thing that I do most. If you count like, video writing, then I find that all of the important work gets done while my fingers are on the keyboard, not while I'm sort of like waiting for a good idea to arrive. So like an exponentially larger number of good ideas arrive while I'm typing. I'm not saying I never get any while I'm in the shower or driving somewhere or just, but like that's when the real work gets done. And like those ideas can be really high quality. And there's not like something unique and special about the ideas that like just sort of lightning bolt strike me. That like it's more interesting that they like come out of nowhere, but they aren't better than the ideas I have while I'm writing.
No, sometimes my lightning strike ideas are so bad, actually.
They seem good,
but they seem good because they arrived like a lightning strike, and also I think because I've been conditioned by the social order to that the best ideas like come while you're dreaming, or come while you're like on a train staring out the rainy window or whatever. And so when I have an idea when I'm dreaming, or I have an idea when I'm on a train staring out a rainy window, I always think like, this is it. I did it. I solved the biggest problem. I came up with the best idea of all time. And then I'll sit down to write it. It happened recently, actually. I dreamt an episode of the Anthropocene Reviewed, and it was brilliant. It was about dugouts. The place where the baseball players sit during the game when they aren't playing or when they're waiting to bat. And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, what a genius I am. I can't believe I had this amazing dream. And I started to write about it. I started writing about dugouts. I went to the dugouts Wikipedia page, and I was like, oh yeah, no, like in a dream, you can have all kinds of ideas that aren't true. That's like the nature of a dream, is that the rules are different. And now that I'm sitting down to write this, it turns out the dugouts are very uninteresting. Yeah,
and you're feeling like it's an interesting thing about dreams, where your feelings can be completely unrelated to the things that are actually happening.
Totally.
I can feel very anxious in a dream about a very normal thing, or feel very like excited and like enthusiastic about a thing that is like not actually exciting or interesting.
Right.
That's
or you can even have this. You can even have the same dream but have two different reactions to it. Like
totally.
You could, like, sometimes I'm having a dream where I'm in some kind of like large scale armed combat and I'm very excited and confident. And then other times I have a dream where I feel like, why am I being attacked? I don't want to die. So I think that the dreamscape, I don't understand it well, but it doesn't, for me at least, like necessarily deliver the best ideas. We have another question, and I want to ask this, Hank, just because I'm very curious about your answer. It's from Kathy, who asks, Dear John and Hank, what was your favorite thing you've learned about yourself or each other while staying home during the last 106 days? Not that anybody's counting.
This has been one of the least mindful times of my life.
Yeah.
So like the idea that I had extra time to learn about myself while trying to run a business in the midst of a pandemic,
right?
Like trying to, and like having extra childcare duties and having extra, various extra stressors. I figured out that I can survive on less sleep. That is a thing I learned. I don't like it. It's not been good.
Yeah, I think all the lessons that I'm going to learn from this time in my life, I'm going to have to learn in retrospect.
A little bit from now, yeah.
I can't wait to see well, I really can't wait to see how we all look back on this, mostly because that will mean that it's over. And
That's it. Yep.
you know, I think when this first started, the way that I was thinking about it was that when this ends, I'll, you know, kind of have a download about what it all meant and what I learned about myself and my family, and in some ways maybe there would be some things that I would be really grateful for, like the time that, you know, all the time that we had together, and God knows we've had a lot of time, the four of us. But now in the middle of it, you know, all honestly, all I can think about is making sure that the kids are taken care of, that we, you know, are present for them, and then, you know, doing the chores, the laundry, the dishes, making the food, like just doing the things of life. And I agree with you, it hasn't been a mindful time for me, because the time that I have to work is spent just trying to keep the plate spinning. You know, it's not spent like doing deep mindful thought about what this all means. The only attempt I've made to do that is through the podcast I have with WNYC. Are you there, Hank? Well, that happened all at once. I don't know if anyone is there. We lost Hank. Okay, well, you know what? He was optional anyway. I was talking and I can keep talking. I'm going to text Hank. He says, keep recording, please. Okay, I will. He'll be back. So yeah, I think just because of how difficult, I mean, this is, and I am conscious of the fact and that it has been really, really easy for us compared to what it's been like for a lot of people. But the challenges of basically homeschooling the kids have been real. And then, so it has been challenging. And I have tried through the podcast I have with WNYC, the Anthropocene Reviewed, to think something about what it means, I guess, but his internet is down. So I guess I'll host the podcast for a while. I mean, this is my dream come true, really. I've always wanted this podcast to be called Dear John and John and John and John, and now it is. So he's back. Oh, he's back. I was just celebrating the fact that I was going to get to host the podcast by myself.
It's your dream come true.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said my dream is coming true. But I will say that I have learned something about Hank during this period. I have always, just because of the way we are, I have always been cast, I think, somewhat in our relationship as the anxious brother, and in some ways as the I guess I've cast myself as the less competent one, because you are so wildly competent. Like you always have bandwidth to do everything. And I've always, we make a very strong point of not being jealous of each other, and I try really hard not to be. But I have always admired that a lot about you. And I've often felt like Hank's capacity to continue working at a higher and higher level all the time has no limit. And that is beautiful. And also, like, I am jealous of it. But it turns out it does have a limit. It does have a limit, and I have seen the limit. Like, I have seen, this is the first time in our lives together when I have seen Hank hit the wall.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Like, maybe I shouldn't apologize.
Do not apologize for hitting the wall, Hank. It did was make you seem human.
There are times,
which is kind of nice,
this when I have felt like I've been trying to change gears, but like the clutch isn't down, and it's just like, I just like I feel like I'm rubbing against a completely incompatible gearbox and just like making a terrible noise and not. But Yeah, it's and I feel like I've learned that about myself too, and that's required me to think more about my priorities when I can. It's just like for the most part haven't had time to. So I do feel like I've let people down during this period of time, but I think that isn't. I think it's understandable, you know. So
Well, it's not just yeah. I mean, I think it's nice to know that you're human, actually.
thanks. I am human. Skylar has a question for us, John. Skylar
Great.
asks, I want a Nerdfighteria related grad cap, but I'm not sure what to put on it. I just graduated, but my ceremony is postponed. Any dubious advice would be appreciated. DFTBA. There's so many options. We've given you too many options.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from you can go back to 2007 with a puppy-sized elephant sort of look, or you can have. I'm a big fan of the hanklerfish, which is an anglerfish that Hank has sort of personified into a face with a face.
Yeah.
DFTBA.
Yeah.
The nice thing about DFTBA is that people who get it will get it, and people who don't get it will ask about it. So it's a conversation starter.
And it's not like it comes out and you're like, what's that? And then you tell them, and it's not like gross. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Or you can always go with Pizza John, the picture of me with a mustache. I have a funny Pizza John thing has been happening to me recently, which is that Henry. Oh no!
What's wrong?
Manchester City just scored.
Oh no! I can't believe you're paying attention to that right now.
It's okay. Well, I mean, Hank, just to reiterate, it's been 30 years. So one of Henry's best friends has a favorite shirt, and that favorite shirt is a Pizza John shirt.
Oh my God.
And
wow.
Oh, it's so funny. Henry's like, please. Yeah. So I don't know. You get to, you at some point you start embarrassing your kids, and I'm there.
Yeah. I might suggest Skylar a pelican, which is apparently I'm now really into. This is my new thing.
Oh yeah, you're TikTok's leading pelican authority.
Yeah, I'm the head of the pelican side of TikTok.
And congratulations on that. That's a really wonderful achievement.
Thank you. And if I can't tell if you're being honest because you're staring at the TV too much.
First off, I'm not staring at the TV. Okay, I'm occasionally glancing at the TV. Let's call it what it is, which is glancing, not staring. Right. Many times I'm glancing off just into the infinite space because I don't like looking at you when we make the podcast, because this is not how we usually make the podcast. It's weird to me that you have a face when we do this.
Yeah. Yep. It's
this is a great question from Hannah. Dear John and Hank, what do you want your new solo podcast to be about? Hank, if you were going to make a solo podcast tomorrow, what would it be about?
It's not from Hannah. Hannah's the person who put it in the chat.
Oh, sorry, it's from M. I'm not doing a great job reading, but not because I'm paying attention to anything else.
Yeah, John. Well, you've got your own solo podcast right now, the Anthropocene Reviewed.
I do.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
They hit the post. Everything worked out better than expected.
So maybe it's a soccer related pod. I feel like you do a good interview podcast. I would love to.
I don't want to do an interview podcast. Okay. Here's why I don't want to do an interview podcast, Hank.
Because
I do not think the world is suffering from a paucity of them. I would be interested to do a podcast about sports for people who don't like sports. This is similar to an idea I've had for a long time, where I would like to read the Bible with people who do not think of the Bible as a sacred text. Like I am interested in talking about sports, and I've tried to do this on the Anthropocene Reviewed. I'm interested in talking about sports, but like not the way that Sports Center or the endless stream of sports radio talks about sports, but instead more of like, what are we really thinking about when we're thinking about sports?
Yeah.
What about you, Hank?
I don't want I deeply do not want another thing to do. I think that my solo podcast, I've actually I've had two ideas for solo podcasts. One is Silence, which is a podcast that just broadcasts silence, and you just sign up and then you listen to nothing, which is something that we probably could do more of. And the other is, well, I guess this wouldn't be a solo podcast really, but reading public domain literature and potentially discussing it as well. So like going through Jane Austen and like doing a read through, like, but actually reading it out loud so people can listen along and then talk about it after.
Right. So it's like an audio book, but with book discussion.
Yeah.
A similar podcast idea I've had is that there's so much important audio in the public domain from throughout history, mostly 20th century history, of course, but not exclusively. And I thought it would be a cool podcast to make a podcast that is those sounds, and then after listening to them, a discussion of them and a contextualizing discussion of them, because there's a lot that we're missing from 20th century history because of our kind of relentless focus on the present.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great idea. I think the main thing that you want to do is to not have that be a podcast that's just John. I wouldn't want to be involved in it. I think it would have to be a historian, like somebody like Danielle Bainbridge, or or somebody who knows history as more than like an enthusiastic amateur. Which is my thing. I think you'd be a good like lay person to riff off of, but
I think podcasts have enough people to riff off of.
Well, to be frank with you, John, people like you, and you can.
That's nice of you to say.
You can rescind a little bit from public life. That's okay. But if you wanted to do another podcast, I think people would enjoy it. And speaking of making stuff, because this is our VidCon now, dear Hank and John, Miriam asks, more of a question about content creation. I love how much you two are yourselves in your videos. So many creators hyper focus on do's and don'ts, and I often get criticized for not being niche enough, not using keywords enough, etc. How do I grow my channel while being myself and making content I enjoy? Time machine.
I don't think that's the only way. But that is certainly, whenever we get credit for something that we did or do on YouTube, the answer is not that we are good. It's that we started in 2007.
Yeah. And like, if you look at our social media strategy, or especially our YouTube strategy, it is deeply designed to not grow, at least at the current moment. Like, and in the last like year, there have been moments when we've been interested in reaching new people, but I think it is clear if you go to the Vlogbrothers YouTube channel that like that's not the goal right now.
I mean, certainly in the last couple of months, it's been pretty aggressive in its desire to do something other than grow.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, that's not a specific reference to anything. But I think that Hank and I don't know how to make a successful YouTube channel in 2020. No. But I do think it's possible. I think there are people doing it. I think that they are aware of what both of what audiences like and what the algorithm likes, which YouTube would like to imagine is the same thing, but we all know deep down it isn't the same thing.
Yep.
And so those are videos of a certain length, usually like 8 to 15 minutes, and their videos they tend to have a lot of visual change in them. But look, there are, the truth is, like, Hank and I don't know, but also I don't think anyone knows what is going to emerge as a popular format on YouTube in the next 6 months or 5 years. We just don't know. And the reason Hank and I have been able to do the things that we've been able to do is that we have a very loyal core audience that we are extremely grateful for, and that it is in our jobs. And so because it is in our jobs, we don't have to, it's just a really lucky thing in our lives that because Vlogbrothers ad revenue doesn't go to us, we don't need need it to do well. So we don't have to orient our content around trying to grow.
Yeah. Or like we did that. There was a period of time when
Yeah,
that was our goal. And we
yeah.
sort of like moved through it. And it's very difficult to have a YouTube channel that continues to grow forever, like, or impossible, obviously.
It's definitely impossible.
And so like at a certain point, you see that your viewership starts to go down, and like there's kind of three responses to that. Like you fix it and you start to grow again. You try to fix it and you fail and you feel bad, or you are like, well, maybe like the thing I'm doing just isn't going to keep reaching more people forever. And I'm going to keep doing it because I like doing it. And it's not about like, I've like try and move beyond the part where it's about having the audience always get bigger. Now, of course, but that's like after that period of initial growth. And I think that we were pretty strategic and careful back in like 2007 to 2010.
Sure.
And
yes.
Beyond that, even to try and make some fairly viral content. And the way that we did that was we looked at the stuff that was working on the platform. We put our own twist on it. We, thought about like how people make decisions and how algorithms make decisions about what content they're going to watch and what content they're going to serve. And we thought about that stuff. We don't so much anymore.
Right. I think a lot of times people say like nice things about us that like we don't make content for the algorithm. But like the reason we don't make content for the algorithm is because for a long time we did make content for the algorithm, which allowed us into this position. Like we're not like, it's not like we're above it at all.
No. And I actually am really impressed by people who figure out sort of the next thing that might be happening, because human choice changes and the algorithm changes. Like a lot of times people are like, the algorithms changed so much, my content isn't as successful anymore. And I'm like, well, but like people got less interested in certain kinds of content too. Like people change and they want
I mean stuff. there's no version of this on YouTube, right? Like because it's all still new. Like the number of people who've been doing YouTube for 15 years is none. But the number of people who've been doing YouTube for 13 years is like a few hundred.
Yeah.
And so this is all still new, and it's all still like we're all still figuring it out together. But if you think about, and I know this is not a perfect comparison, but somebody pointed out to me a while ago that if you think about it in terms of TV shows, like the number of TV shows that have been on TV for like 13 years and are still making new episodes is almost none.
Yeah.
It's like The Simpsons and Grey's Anatomy. And so, like nobody says like, oh, Seinfeld, what a failure. Like it was only on for people only watched it for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to figure out together how we're gonna think about YouTube as we get older and it gets older.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remain fairly obsessed with online media and how it works and how to interface with it. So I'm not going to stop paying attention. And I am fascinated, and I think YouTube's pretty here to stay. It's funny, when I wrote YouTube into an absolute remarkable thing, people were like, "Are you sure you want to put it in there? Because like it might be that by the time the book comes out, which might be in like 2 years, that like YouTube isn't as big of a deal." And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's not a thing. That's not. We're dealing with MySpace here."
I remember in 2008 when Paper Towns came out, I called Wikipedia Omnictionary because everybody was concerned that Wikipedia wouldn't be around for people to know what I was referencing.
Oh, wow.
It turns out that Wikipedia had some pretty good legs in terms of staying power.
It's a great name for Wikipedia, though.
Thank you. I have to say, Hank, that your obsession with the social internet and with the way that online media works is exhausting at times. As your brother, as a reader of A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, it is wonderfully fulfilling, because it really does feel like you have like taken in so much information about how online media works, and then you've expressed it back to me in a way that I feel but can't express. Like I feel all this stuff about Twitter or about YouTube or about online fame in general, but I kind of don't know how to talk about it because I don't have the capacity to like look at it with the kind of clarity that you look at it with, especially in the new book, but also in the first book. So it is. I know I've said this repeatedly, but Hank's book is really, really wonderful, and I am a little bit in awe of it.
Thank you. Thanks, John. I got my second starred review from Booklist.
Did you? Oh, I used to work at Booklist.
I know.
Who wrote the review?
I don't know yet because it's not officially out.
Okay.
I'm allowed to talk about it, but I'm not allowed to share it yet.
You're not allowed to talk about it yet. Okay. Well, congratulations. Oh, I remember when somebody would get a starred review at Booklist, it was my job as production editor to lay out the review special so that it really popped in the magazine.
Nice.
So congratulations.
Well, I hope that I get that lovely treatment from whoever has your job now.
That is so cool.
This question comes from Alice, who asks, for legal reasons, my housemates and I need to switch bedrooms. I don't know what law got involved in this situation, but apparently a law got involved. This is proving to be a huge logistical nightmare. How do you move 3 bedrooms into 2 bedrooms across 2 floors in the height of a very humid summer? Alice.
Oof.
Wait, do you have to fit 3 bedrooms into 2 bedrooms, or just like temporarily while you're like emptying one out so that you can put stuff into the, because you don't have to like have one of the rooms be empty, Alice.
I think they might be moving actual apartments.
Oh, you need to switch
since there's
bedrooms.
Stairs involved. But I'm not sure. Here's what you do though. The only fair thing is you draw lots. This is an old strategy, and you go with this, short stick, long stick, whatever your strategy of randomization is. Now you can use a random number generator. You can draw numbers out of a hat. You just do it that way and you make it work. I remember we had an extremely tense version of this. My friend Shannon and I and our friend and roommates Katie and Hassan had a real high stakes version of this when we moved into a new apartment, because there was like one great bedroom, one acceptable bedroom, and one room where 2 people were going to sleep. It was, I think you just got to go with that. I mean, you should also listen to people's needs and to people's individual differences and what they, what they really require. But yeah, I think that's it.
And then as for the physical logistics of moving a bunch of stuff in the heat, you just gotta, if you can find it. Well, I'm not going to say that because it's this situation.
You can't, not in this situation.
So yeah, if you can, you do have to kind of have this be a day-long endeavor, and maybe like you spend a day planning exactly how it's going to go and where everything's going to go, but you really want to have this start in the morning, and then you have to have pizza delivered halfway through the day, and then you want to be done by the end of the day. Because if this happens for 2 days, you're going to be very sad.
That's exactly right. You don't want it to extend into the second day. The second day of moving is always, it's just a big bummer.
One of the great things about how we're doing this right now is Alice actually responded, and they have to reduce the number of rooms because one room is legally too small to be a bedroom, which does occur. This does occur.
That's a difficult situation.
Yeah, so you're going to have to play some high stakes drawing of lots, and I really wouldn't do it in any like weirder, more interesting, more skill-based version of this.
No.
I wouldn't try to make it complicated at all. I'd be like, this is it. We are assigning value to this one interaction. This Rochambeau is for all of the marbles.
But don't make it that, because even that is even rock, paper, scissors is a little bit a game of skill.
You're right. You really do have to make it something totally random.
It's got to be completely random.
Yeah.
Jules has a question, Hank. Jules asks, Dear John and Hank, what was your favorite moment that you've had at VidCon ever?
Oh gosh, I mean, that's kind of easy, weirdly enough.
It's easy for me too. I wonder if it's the same one.
I bet it is. I've had a lot of very good VidCon moments, and a lot of them have just sort of like faded into the background of just like pleasant feelings rather than specific things. But the Gregory brothers bringing Yosemite Bear out on stage to do Double Rainbow. I think I don't know. It was one of the first two VidCons.
It was the second, I think.
Yeah. And like everybody it was one of these like viral videos that had recently gone really viral, and everybody had seen it a bunch of times, and that the hook of that song is so hooky, and having Yosemite Bear there and everybody in the room knowing exactly what we're like, every word to the thing, and then just like going on and on with it, like drawing the song out so that we could all sing together. And like I think at one point they like stopped playing music and we all just sang, and singing together in a bunch of singing together with a bunch of people in a room who all sort of like love something together is one of the most special things that you can do. And I will never let go of that memory. And we recently lost Yosemite Bear, and it's very sad. And but just trying to think of like, the joy, that so much joy that he brought into people's lives, and that joy came from just a place of admiring a natural thing that exists, and that is a thing that like people all over the world now, whenever you see a double rainbow, like we share that joy with him. And like that, really, like that song and that experience that he had is about joy. And that experience that I had with him and the Gregorys and the rest of the people at VidCon was also really was all about joy.
That is also my favorite VidCon memory. And it wasn't just joy, right? Like it was also this earnestness. It was this ability to be deeply moved by a double rainbow, brought to tears by it, to feel like an absolute total unironized emotion around this beautiful phenomenon that then the Gregory brothers turned into a song that is itself, like, in some ways a version of that like somehow, without being like overly earnest or without being cheesy or saccharine or sentimental, somehow still captures the true emotional experience of that original seeing of the double rainbow. And so singing that song with all those people it's one of the, I mean, when I'm, this is silly, but like when I'm running and I'm really tired and I feel like, oh God, I can't finish it, I can't do 6 miles today. There's 2 or 3 memories that I will turn to like push me, to like get me to go. And one of them is singing Double Rainbow All the Way Across the Sky with all those people, because that's how good it felt.
Yeah, which reminds me, John, that this podcast is brought to you by Double Rainbows. Rainbows. It's 2 of them in the sky, and they're there to make you happy. That's why they're there.
Today's podcast is, of course, also brought to you by John's new podcast, Dear John and John. It's all about me now.
And this podcast is also brought to you by Beef Jerky-O's.
Oh, God, no!
Put them in milk and they're better. I don't know how. They are.
No! Go! Why'd you have to give them a name? Oh, no! They're going to be in my mind forever. Oh, somebody wrote yum, but they didn't mean it. Now we do the thing where we don't remember what the last thing that we could do it from. What's
I put some in the chat for you, bro.
In the chat. Oh, look at that. And today's podcast is also brought to you by Seinfeld's Failure. Seinfeld's Failure. It was only 4 seasons. I mean, who even? That's not.
What a disaster.
What a disaster indeed. Oh, goodness gracious, Hank.
Yeah, indeed.
Before we get to the all important news from Mars and AFC Wimbledon, I want to answer one more question.
Do you want to do the news? Do you want to do wait, we could just not do the news because I don't have any.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. We don't have to do the all important news from Mars and AFC Wimbledon.
It's not that important.
Yeah, we could just answer more questions. That's fine I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I do have a bit of news.
Oh, yeah?
Chelsea have scored meaning that Manchester City now have to score 2 goals in 13 minutes, or Liverpool are champions of England. I may cry. I have imagined this moment so many times, and I've imagined myself being at Union Jack Pub in Indianapolis with all of the other Indianapolis Liverpool supporters, all my friends in Indianapolis who support Liverpool, and I've imagined myself at Carragher's Pub in New York City, and I've imagined myself in Liverpool watching the game at Anfield, and I've imagined myself. I never imagined that I would be in a basement alone
recording a weird remote podcast for an audience
using a tool that I had not heard of 2 years ago called Zoom. This was not quite how I imagined it, but I am not going to let that in any way affect my profound enjoyment of this development.
It's also very weird and I guess maybe this isn't weird, but it seems very weird to me for it to happen while they're not playing.
That's pretty common though. That happens. That happens. It is weird, and I guess that you could root for a more dramatic version of this, but I for one have no interest in added drama.
So this is like the old season has picked back up again.
Yes, and now they're playing without fans, and there's extensive, regulations and everything. But so it's definitely just in general, it's a weird environment because like they're going to lift a trophy. I don't know, in a stadium that has no people in it. Maybe who knows? But but I'm gonna have hopefully 30 more years to enjoy this.
Right.
And
there you go.
I intend to spread out my enjoyment, not just over the next now 11 minutes, but over the next, several decades.
Yeah. All right, John, this next question comes from Sarah 9999999. I've recently taken to ice cream making as a hobby. Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
I've basically run out of common flavor combinations. Any suggestions? Ice cream was a luxury in the Victorian era. It still is, Sarah.
Still a luxury. I mean, when we get ice cream at the house, I get very excited.
Yeah.
It's not common.
No. And I don't actually ever eat it at home. I kind of make a point to only eat ice cream when I'm out. Like there's something special.
Okay.
It feels.
So I went to a cooking school once.
Oh. I am shocked. Weird. You made croutons and those red potatoes about the size of your fist.
No, but I did go to a cooking school, and we did make lots of delicious food. And one of the things that we made was ice cream that was basil flavored.
Oh,
and that was something I didn't think was going to work. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that there's a lot of sort of not so sweet ice cream flavors that I dig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the ice cream shop down the street from me has occasionally an Irish whiskey ice cream that I'm extremely fond of.
Ooh.
It's like a complicated vanilla, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do it or anything, but I love it. And maybe there is a cat, I imagine. And I know the guy who runs this ice cream shop, so I could just ask him. But
Hank knows everyone in Missoula.
He's a friend. I think maybe there's a catalog of flavors. So not you blend up the basil yourself, but you just go and you buy vials full of lemon basil or whatever.
Yeah, although in this case we did blend up the basil ourselves and it was delicious.
That sounds very good. I like that idea. Or you could just put, can you just put whiskey in it? I don't know if you can, because it's got a bunch of water. But try.
I think it depends on how old you are.
That's a good point.
My honest answer.
Yeah. When I was in college, I used to put vodka in Frosties from Wendy's, and that was my favorite. It was my favorite drink.
There's something about the way that young people consume alcohol that I find so horrifying.
I know. Though
when I was in high school, I drank Zima. Zima.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Zima.
You drank Strawberry Hill flavored citrus wine.
Now, to be fair, I still enjoy the occasional glass of Strawberry Hill. That's a high quality beverage.
The time when I walked into because I had to drink Strawberry Hill for a Vlogbrothers challenge, and I walked into a liquor store and I was like, "Do you have Strawberry Hill?" And the guy was like, "I don't know what that is." Except he was like, I don't know what that is. And then I was like Strawberry Hill, it's like a wine cooler. And he's like, oh, you mean Boone's Farm? And I was like, I have no idea what you just said. He's like Boone's Farm. And I was like, can you point me in the direction of whatever that is? And Strawberry Hill is made by a company called Boone's Farm.
It is, yes. Boone's Farm has a number of flavors, of which Strawberry Hill is one, which is, Hank, Strawberry Hill ice cream would be amazing. And that is our ultimate suggestion.
Strawberry Hill
ice cream. We cannot wait to find out how delicious it is. Please keep us up to date. And I should say that I should encourage everyone who is watching or listening to this to continue the conversation with all of y'all together at the VidCon Discord server to the hashtag FC-hour-dear Hank and John channel. You can find it there if you go to
do it again because you said F instead of V. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, it's because it says F.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
To go on the VidCon Discord server to the hashtag FC-hour-dear-Hank-and-John channel. So there will be continued discussion there. Thank you so much for joining us, and a huge thanks again to everybody at VidCon behind the scenes, especially Hannah and Duncan for helping us out, making everything work.
Yeah, absolutely. John, how many minutes are left in your football game?
6. And so I'm going to go enjoy, I'm going to go call some of my Liverpool supporting friends, and we're going to enjoy this moment together.
That sounds great. And can you record an update to put into the podcast?
I will record an update. But thank you all for joining me for this strangely important hour of my life.
Thanks for making a podcast with me, John. This podcast is edited by Joseph Tuna Medish. It's produced by Rosianna House Rojas and Sheridan Gibson. Our communications coordinator is Paola Garcia Prieto. And the music you're hearing now and at the beginning of the podcast by the great Gunnarola. And as they say in our hometown, don't forget to be awesome.